Imagine for a moment that there are two people living inside your head. One is a brilliant, visionary, disciplined architect who dreams of your future success. This version of you wants to run marathons, eat kale salads for every meal, and save every spare penny for a comfortable retirement. But then there is the other person, the one who actually shows up to live your life. This person is impulsive, hungry, and perpetually exhausted. When the architect plans a salad for next Tuesday, the inhabitant of the present moment sees a double cheeseburger right now, and the cheeseburger wins every single time. This is not a lack of willpower, and it is not a character flaw. It is a fundamental paradox of the human design. We are a species capable of building starships and decoding genomes, yet we routinely spend more money insuring our smartphones than our own lives. We are brilliant planners but terrible doers. To understand why we are so consistently, predictably, and often hilariously bad with our money, we have to peel back the layers of the brain and look at the ancient engines that drive us. Because the secret to your bank account is not found in a spreadsheet, but in the survival instincts of a primate hiding in a skyscraper, let us begin with the concept of present bias, which is essentially our biological obsession with the now. Imagine you are standing in a lush forest 10,000 years ago. You find a tree heavy with ripe fruit. Do you eat as much as you can right now? Or do you carefully portion it out for the next 3 months? In the world of our ancestors, there was no such thing as a refrigerated pantry or a high-yield savings account. Food rotted, predators stole it, or a rival tribe might move in. Evolution favored the individual who seized the immediate reward because the future was never guaranteed. This is why we struggle so much with the idea of saving for a version of ourselves that exists 30 years from now. To your ancient brain, that future self is not you, it is a total stranger. Neurologically, when you think about your current self, a part of your brain called the medial prefrontal cortex lights up with activity. But when you think about yourself in the distant future, that area goes quiet. In fact, your brain processes thoughts of your future self in almost the same way it processes thoughts of a complete stranger. This is the evolutionary engine of present bias. We are hardwired to prioritize the needs of the person who is hungry today over the person who will be old tomorrow. Consider a mundane example that almost everyone has experienced: the hypothetical snack choice. Imagine a group of people are asked what they would like to eat as a snack 1 week from today. A staggering 74% of them will choose a healthy option like a banana. They are in the planning mode. Their inner architect is in charge. But then, fast forward 1 week. The moment of choice arrives, and a tray is brought out containing both bananas and rich, decadent chocolate. Suddenly, the majority of those people reach for the chocolate. Oh, the immediate gratification of the sugar and fat overrides the long-term goal of health. This is the same reason why you might sign up for a gym membership in January, but find yourself sitting on the couch by February. Self-control is a future tense phenomenon. We have infinite willpower for tomorrow, but zero for today. Now, let us look at how this bias operates on a systemic, high-stakes level. Think about the way modern technology giants design their interfaces. Every red notification bubble, every infinite scroll, and every buy now with one click button is a precision-engineered trap for your present bias. Trillion-dollar companies spend billions of dollars researching how to trigger the dopamine pathways in your brain that demand immediate action. They know that if they can make the transaction feel instantaneous, your inner architect never has a chance to speak up. This is why we see a rise in consumer debt and a decline in personal savings across the globe. The environment we live in has been hyper-optimized to exploit a biological drive that was meant to keep us from starving in the wilderness, but is now causing us to drown in things we do not need. But present bias is only the first gear in this hidden engine. The second gear is something even more subtle: Inertia. We like to think of ourselves as active decision makers, but the truth is that we are a species of least resistance. Evolutionarily, making decisions is expensive. It takes a lot of cognitive energy to weigh options, calculate risks, and choose a path. In the wild, burning too many calories on unnecessary thought could be the difference between life and death. So, our brains developed a shortcut, the default. If a choice is already made for us, or if the path is already set, we tend to stay on it. This is the basal ganglia at work. The part of the brain that handles habits and automatic behaviors. It wants to keep you on autopilot to save fuel for emergencies. This leads us to a fascinating and somewhat chilling comparison involving organ donation. In some countries, like a certain German-speaking nation, the law says that you are not an organ donor unless you specifically check a box on your driver's license application to say you want to be one. In that country, despite many public awareness campaigns, only about 12% of people check the box. Now, look at a neighboring country with a very similar culture and history. In this second country, the law says you are an organ donor by default, unless you check a box to say you do not want to be. In that country, 99% of people are organ donors. Is the second country filled with more heroic, selfless people? No. The difference is simply the power of the default. People do not check the box because checking the box takes effort. It takes a moment of decision, and our brains are designed to avoid that moment whenever possible. In the mundane world, companies use this against you with the free trial model. They give you 30 days of a service for free, knowing that once the trial is over, the default becomes a paid subscription. They are betting on your inertia. They know that the friction of having to log in, find the cancellation page, and confirm your choice is just high enough that many people will simply keep paying for a service they no longer use. On a systemic level, this is why many retirement plans fail. For decades, many companies required employees to sign up for their retirement accounts manually. They had to navigate a complicated website, choose from 52 different investment options, and decide exactly how much to contribute. Because the process was so high friction, many people never got around to it. They weren't choosing not to save. They were just not choosing to save. They were stuck in the default of doing nothing. The third hidden engine is perhaps the most painful: loss aversion. To understand this, we have to look at our cousins in the animal kingdom. In a famous study, researchers worked with two groups of monkeys and some apples. The first group of monkeys was given one apple, and they were perfectly happy. The second group of monkeys was shown two apples, but then the researchers took one of those apples away. Even though both groups ended up with exactly one apple, the second group of monkeys was absolutely furious. Wah! They felt they had lost something, and that loss felt much worse than the gain of the initial apple. This is the core of loss aversion. The psychological pain of losing something is roughly twice as powerful as the joy of gaining the exact same thing. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes perfect sense. For an organism living on the edge of survival, a loss of resources can be fatal, while a gain of the same size might just be a nice bonus. If you have 10 days of food and you lose 5, you might die. If you have 10 days of food and you gain 5, you just have more food. The stakes are asymmetrical, and so our brains evolved to be hypersensitive to anything that feels like a loss. In the modern world, this is why losing a $20 bill feels so much more painful than finding a $20 bill feels good. This creates a massive barrier when it comes to money. When a financial advisor tells you that you need to save more money for retirement, what your brain hears is not, "I am building wealth for the future." What your brain hears is, "I am taking a loss in my spending power today." To your intuitive, emotional mind, saving feels like a pay cut. It feels like the researcher taking the apple away. This is why people gamble on the lottery. The average household in some major cities spends $4,000 a year on lottery tickets. Even though the odds of winning are nearly zero, the brain is lured by the tiny chance of a massive gain that would offset all other perceived losses, while the small daily cost of the ticket doesn't trigger the loss aversion alarm quite as loudly as a large monthly savings contribution would. So, we are faced with a triple threat. We are biased toward the present, we are paralyzed by inertia, and we are terrified of loss. How do we fix this? A Nobel-winning economist and his colleague decided that instead of trying to change human nature, they would use human nature to solve the problem. They created a program called Save More Tomorrow, and it is a masterpiece of behavioral engineering. The program works by flipping these three biases on their heads. First, it addresses present bias by asking people to commit to saving more, but not today, tomorrow. Remember, your future self is a stranger, and you are very generous with strangers. When people are asked to increase their savings starting in 6 months or a year, they say yes, because it doesn't hurt yet. Second, it solves the problem of inertia by making the increase automatic. Once you sign up, the savings rate goes up every year on its own. You don't have to check a box or make a decision ever again. You are on the autopilot to wealth. Finally, it solves loss aversion by timing the increases to coincide with pay raises. If you get a 3% raise and your savings contribution goes up by 3%, your take-home pay stays exactly the same. You never see the money go away, so you never feel the pain of the loss. You feel like you are still getting ahead, while your retirement fund quietly explodes in size. When this was first tested at a mid-sized manufacturing company, the results were staggering. These were blue-collar workers who were struggling to pay their bills. And initially, they were only saving about 3% of their income. After 3.5 years and 4 pay raises, their savings rate had jumped to nearly 14%. Oh, they were saving 4 times as much as they had been, and they barely even noticed it happening. This wasn't because they became more disciplined or smarter. It was because the system was designed to work with their brains instead of against them. Today, this program is used by more than 60% of large companies in the United States, and it has helped millions of people save billions of dollars. However, we must be careful. These behavioral nudges are not a magic wand, and they have limitations. For one, they rely on a stable economic environment. If a country is experiencing hyperinflation, where money loses its value every day, present bias is actually a rational survival strategy. Saving for tomorrow is useless if the currency will be worthless by then. Additionally, these biases can backfire when people lose trust in the institutions managing their money. If the default is perceived as a trap by a corrupt government or a predatory bank, inertia will be replaced by a frantic, and often destructive, search for alternatives. We also see that for the extremely poor, those who are truly living paycheck to paycheck, there is no slack in the system to nudge. You cannot nudge someone to save money that they literally need to buy bread tonight. But for the rest of us, the lesson is clear. We are not the rational calculating machines we like to pretend to be. We are a collection of ancient instincts living in a modern world that we weren't built for. The architecture of our choices matters more than the strength of our will. So, I invite you to take a look at your own life. Audit your brain. Where are you being led by a default that doesn't serve you? Where is your fear of loss keeping you stuck in a situation that is costing you your future? Oh, and most importantly, what can you do today to make things easier for the version of you that will exist 10 years from now? Because that stranger is counting on you, and they are closer than you think. If you want to keep exploring the hidden machinery of your mind, I hope you will join us for our next deep dive. Until then, try to be kind to both of the people living inside your head. The architect dreams the path, but the inhabitant has to walk it, and sometimes they just need a little nudge in the right direction.